Did you ever feel like God was playing favorites and you worried that you were being left out? I have felt that way at times. I've looked around at what other people received, things I had desperately wanted and begged God for, and I wondered why He said yes to them and no to me. When that happens, I try to think of a story from John 11, which features two sisters, Martha and Mary. They lived during Jesus' time. They lived with their brother Lazarus. He was their protector and their provider. They were fortunate that they saw Jesus often. He came to their house. They served Him. They sat at His feet. He called Himself their friend. One sad day, when Lazarus was ill and close to death, they called for their friend, and he did not come. Jesus delayed in coming, and by the time He arrived, Lazarus was gone, and Martha and Mary were in the midst of their grief. Martha speaks to Jesus first, and she says to Him, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." Mary later goes to Jesus, runs to Him, and she says the same thing. "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." I think it's interesting that two sisters so close to each other, both experiencing the same tragedy, the same grief, expressing the same doubt in the same exact words, and Jesus responds to each differently. To Martha, the practical one, He points her eyes towards eternity and the true resurrection. With Mary, the dreamer, He says nothing. Perhaps she'd been sitting at His feet so often that He hoped she would access the words she'd hidden away in her heart and be able to comfort herself and comfort others. He treated each one differently, not because of favoritism, but because He knew the hard attitudes behind the words. He knew their personalities, He knew their needs, He knew the future, what they'd have to face, and He chose from that perfect knowing what gift to give each one. I also think it's interesting to note that Martha, maybe she needed a lesson in the midst of her tragedy because she had missed sometimes at sitting at Jesus' feet. And Mary, even though she had been so often soaking in His words, sitting at His feet, and even was commended for it, that did not ward off tragedy in her life. She still had to experience hard things. So I can be confident that my Heavenly Father knows what's best for me, and that's exactly what He'll give. And I'm probably not wise to compare my life to others. I need to trust Him that He loves me and knows what's best.